How deep will Saudi Arabia's ties with Burkina Faso go? Saudi Arabia has sent military forces to Burkina Faso under the IMCT banner, signaling a pivotal shift in the battle against insurgency in the Sahel. This move not only targets insurgents but also puts the West on notice. But wait, aren't they two sides of the same coin? Never mind. What will this partnership truly mean for Burkina Faso? Let's find out. What prompted Saudi Arabia's decision to send troops to Burkina Faso?
Sergei Shoigu met with his counterpart from Burkina Faso, Kassoum Coulibaly, to discuss military cooperation, with Shoigu hailing the positive dynamics between the two countries. Russian-Burkinabe relations are based solely on the principles of mutual respect and consideration of each other's interest, and in recent years they have acquired positive dynamics. I consider today's meeting to be another step in the development of our friendly relations. Burkina's military rulers have deepened cooperation with Moscow as the country looks to diversify its international allies following a coup last year.
Saudi Arabia's deployment of troops to Burkina Faso through IMCTC is not just a reaction to the growing jihadist threat. It's a bold step towards redefining global partnerships in the fight for true sovereignty and security in Africa. For Burkina Faso, under the visionary leadership of Ibrahim Traoré, this is a crucial moment. Traoré has made it clear that Burkina Faso will not be a playground for Western interests any longer. By aligning with Saudi Arabia, he's forging a path that prioritizes Burkina Faso's independence and security on its terms, free from the usual strings attached to Western military assistance. Saudi Arabia's move to send troops to Burkina Faso is a signal that the kingdom understands the shifting dynamics in Africa. For too long, African nations like Burkina Faso have been subjected to foreign interference that promised stability but delivered only dependency. Western aid often came with layers of political control, economic demands, and under-the-table conditions that weakened the sovereignty of African nations. Traoré, recognizing this trap, is seeking out partnerships that respect his country's right to govern itself and secure its future. And Saudi Arabia, through the IMCTC, is offering exactly that: support without subjugation. Let's face it, Burkina Faso's decision to partner with Saudi Arabia is not just a shift in military strategy. It's a declaration of intent. Traoré understands that to truly break free from neo-colonial entanglements, Burkina Faso needs allies who respect its autonomy. Enter Saudi Arabia, a nation that is reshaping its role in the world and has no interest in imposing a Western-style paternalism on African nations. The IMCTC, led by Saudi Arabia, is focused on a cooperative model that aligns perfectly with Traoré's vision, one where security and development are achieved through collaboration, not coercion. Saudi Arabia's involvement comes at a critical time for Burkina Faso. The country faces an escalating threat, but Western military interventions in the region have largely failed to bring lasting peace. The French presence, in particular, was perceived as more about protecting their interests than genuinely solving the security crisis in the Sahel. Traoré's rejection of Western military influence, followed by his welcoming of Saudi support, is a masterstroke in asserting Burkina Faso's right to choose its partners without being told who can and cannot defend its sovereignty. Saudi Arabia, by stepping in through the IMCTC, shows that it is willing to engage with African nations like Burkina Faso on an equal footing, offering military support that prioritizes regional stability, not foreign domination. The West's narrative that only they can bring stability to Africa crumbles in the face of Burkina Faso's partnership with Saudi Arabia. Traoré's decision forces the West to acknowledge their failures in the region. They claim to be fighting insurgency, yet Burkina Faso and the entire Sahel region are still grappling with violence. Now, with Saudi Arabia's involvement, Burkina Faso is gaining the security assistance it needs, but without the suffocating conditions the West has always imposed. Saudi Arabia's decision to send troops through the IMCTC is also a strategic move for the kingdom. It's about positioning itself as a global leader in counterterrorism, yes, but it's also about showing that Saudi Arabia is ready to support nations that are shaking off Western interference. Riyadh understands that Africa is looking for new partnerships that aren't built on the broken promises of aid that leave countries in the worse shape than before. By aligning with Burkina Faso, Saudi Arabia is not only expanding its influence, but also cementing itself as a reliable partner for African nations looking for real solutions, not handouts. Western pundits are quick to point out the kingdom's human rights record when it suits their geopolitical narratives, but they conveniently ignore the decades of Western exploitation and manipulation in Africa. Burkina Faso's decision to partner with Saudi Arabia isn't about turning a blind eye. It's about choosing an ally that offers genuine respect for its sovereignty. Traore isn't naive. He knows that partnerships with Western powers often come with hidden costs that weaken his nation's independence. Saudi Arabia, by contrast, is offering military support without demanding political subservience. Saudi Arabia's involvement in Burkina Faso through the IMCTC is also part of a broader foreign policy that aligns perfectly with Africa's goals. Saudi Arabia is diversifying its alliances, recognizing that Africa's future is one of independence, not Western dependency. The kingdom's willingness to deploy troops to Burkina Faso is a testament to the respect it has for Traore's leadership and his vision of an Africa that stands on its own, free from neo-colonial entanglements. The IMCTC's role here is not just about counterterrorism, it's about building long-term relationships based on mutual benefit, and this is exactly what Burkina Faso needs at this moment. Western claims that Saudi Arabia's involvement is destabilizing. The reality is that Western interventions, particularly in the Sahel, have been disastrous, leaving behind a trail of instability and disillusionment. Burkina Faso has every right to seek out new partners that are committed to real, on-the-ground security solutions. Saudi Arabia, by stepping in, is providing an alternative to the failed Western approaches. The IMCTC's involvement is a clear signal that Burkina Faso will no longer be a puppet for Western interests, but rather a sovereign nation choosing its path forward. While Saudi Arabia's deployment under the IMCTC strengthens the fight against terrorism, it also raises the question, how does this partnership align with Ibrahim Traoré's vision for Burkina Faso's sovereignty and regional leadership? What if Burkina Faso ends up being dependent on Saudi Arabia? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Ibrahim Traoré's rise to power in Burkina Faso has been marked by a bold and unwavering commitment to reclaiming his country's sovereignty, moving away from the suffocating grip of Western influence. His vision is clear: a Burkina Faso that stands strong on its own, forging alliances that respect its autonomy and prioritize its people's security. In this context, Saudi Arabia's deployment of troops through the IMCTC is not just a military maneuver. It's a key piece in Traoré's broader strategy for regional independence and resilience against insurgency. Traoré's rejection of Western interference, particularly his decision to sever military ties with France, has been a rallying cry for many Burkinabe and Africans who see Western powers as the source of their continued instability. The West's interventions, often masked as aid or peacekeeping, have too frequently been tied to exploitation, economic dependency, and political control. Traoré has made it his mission to break these chains, and the partnership with Saudi Arabia offers exactly what he has been seeking: a relationship based on mutual respect, free from the neo-colonial baggage that comes with Western involvement. Saudi Arabia's deployment through the IMCTC aligns seamlessly with Traoré's broader vision for Burkina Faso's future. Unlike previous Western interventions, which have been transactional and heavy with political strings, Saudi Arabia's support is rooted in shared goals: countering terrorism, strengthening regional security, and respecting Burkina Faso's right to self-determination. This is the kind of partnership Traoré has been advocating for since he took office, one where security assistance comes without the compromise of sovereignty. With Saudi Arabia, Traoré sees a partner that not only recognizes Burkina Faso's strategic importance in the fight against insurgency, but also its desire to chart its path. Under Traoré's leadership, Burkina Faso has redefined its foreign policy, and this Saudi deployment is part of that realignment. The expulsion of French troops and the pivot toward partnerships with non-Western powers like Russia and Saudi Arabia represent a decisive shift in how Burkina Faso engages with the world. Traoré's message is clear. Burkina Faso will no longer be a pawn in Western geopolitical games. The IMCTC's support, backed by Saudi Arabia's leadership, shows that Traoré can secure the military and economic assistance his country needs without sacrificing its independence. This is a critical step in Traoré's broader goal of reshaping Burkina Faso's role on the African and global stage. Saudi Arabia's involvement is also a validation of Traoré's leadership in the region. As a key player in the G5 Sahel, a regional security coalition comprising Chad, Mali, Niger, and Mauritania, Burkina Faso holds a pivotal position in the fight against insurgencies. By welcoming Saudi support, Traoré strengthens not only his own country's security, but also his influence within the broader Sahel region. The IMCTC's presence in Burkina Faso underscores Traoré's ability to bring new and credible allies to the table, partners that can contribute to the fight against insurgency without demanding political allegiance or economic control. For Traoré, this partnership with Saudi Arabia isn't just about military support. It's about asserting Burkina Faso's place as a leader in Africa's fight for independence from foreign dominance. The IMCTC's deployment enhances Burkina Faso's military capabilities in its ongoing battle against extremist groups. But it also serves as a broader statement. Burkina Faso will forge its future, free from the coercive influence of Western powers. By working with Saudi Arabia, Traoré is showing the world that African nations can choose their allies and fight their battles without being beholden to the West. Moreover, the IMCTC's role in Burkina Faso reflects Traoré's commitment to building strategic alliances that serve the country's long-term interests. This is not a fleeting military arrangement. It's part of a larger effort to establish Burkina Faso as a self-reliant, independent actor in the global fight against terrorism. Saudi Arabia's support through the IMCTC is an endorsement of Traoré's vision for a sovereign Burkina Faso that plays an active role in shaping its destiny and that of the Sahel region. Traoré's approach to diversifying Burkina Faso's international partnerships is paying off. By aligning with Saudi Arabia, he has demonstrated that Burkina Faso can secure its national interests without compromising its autonomy. The IMCTC's deployment in Burkina Faso is more than just a military intervention. It's a validation of Traoré's broader strategy for reclaiming control over the country's security, economy, and foreign policy. With Saudi Arabia as a key partner, Traoré is proving that Burkina Faso can stand strong, free from the legacy of Western dominance. As Burkina Faso and Saudi Arabia solidify their partnership through the IMCTC, the question arises: what impact will this have on the broader fight against insurgency in the Sahel? The Sahel has long been a battleground for extremist groups that have exploited the region's vulnerabilities. Porous borders, weak governance, and widespread poverty. Burkina Faso, sitting at the heart of this troubled region, has borne the brunt of jihadist violence. Under President Ibrahim Traoré's leadership, the country has taken decisive steps to reclaim control over its security, and Saudi Arabia's involvement signals a new phase in the fight against insurgency in the Sahel. This partnership is not just a military intervention, it's a game-changer for the entire region's approach to defeating insurgency. Saudi Arabia's decision to deploy troops to Burkina Faso is a pivotal move that aligns with both Traoré's vision for regional stability and the broader goal of reclaiming the Sahel from extremist insurgencies. The kingdom, with its deep experience in counterterrorism, is uniquely positioned to make a tangible impact in a region that has seen numerous foreign interventions with mixed results. The strategic deployment of Saudi forces doesn't come with the baggage of Western involvement, which has often been marred by accusations of neo-colonialism or hidden agendas. Instead, Saudi Arabia, as a fellow Muslim-majority nation, brings a culturally and politically acceptable approach that resonates more deeply with local populations and leaders. For Burkina Faso, Saudi Arabia's support through the IMCTC brings more than just additional military resources. It brings the expertise of a nation that has successfully fought insurgency on its soil. The kingdom's experience in counterterrorism, particularly its intelligence-gathering capabilities, counterinsurgency tactics, and community-based approaches to de-radicalization, offers Burkina Faso the tools it needs to combat the jihadist threat more effectively. Traore, by inviting Saudi involvement, is not only addressing immediate security concerns, but also securing long-term stability by partnering with a country that understands the complexities of fighting insurgency. In the broader Sahel context, the impact of Saudi troops could be profound. Unlike previous Western-led interventions, which often failed to gain the trust of local populations or address the root causes of instability, Saudi Arabia's involvement through the IMCTC is seen as more legitimate and less self-serving. The presence of Saudi forces offers an alternative to the Western-dominated security framework that has been largely ineffective in curbing extremist violence. This is a crucial point for African nations like Burkina Faso, which have grown weary of Western promises that rarely materialize into sustainable solutions. Saudi Arabia's support is not about imposing political or economic control over Burkina Faso. It's about forging a partnership based on mutual interests, regional security, and the fight against terrorism. Traore's government, by welcoming Saudi troops, demonstrates that it is not dependent on Western powers to address its security needs. Instead, Burkina Faso is diversifying its partnerships, and the inclusion of Saudi Arabia in its security framework signals a shift toward alliances that respect African sovereignty and prioritize African interests. Saudi Arabia's involvement also elevates the IMCTC's credibility as a serious player in global counterinsurgency efforts. The coalition's deployment in Burkina Faso is a major step in expanding its footprint beyond the Middle East, showing that the IMCTC is not just a regional force, but a global one. By stepping into the Sahel, Saudi Arabia is demonstrating its commitment to combating insurgency wherever it emerges, not just within its borders. This expands Saudi Arabia's influence and strengthens its position as a leader in the Islamic world, capable of shaping security policies on a global scale. For the Sahel, this partnership with Saudi Arabia presents a unique opportunity to recalibrate its fight against terrorism. Western interventions, whether through the G5 Sahel or other international coalitions, have struggled to produce meaningful, long-term stability. The region's history with foreign involvement has often been one of exploitation, with external powers more focused on securing their interests, whether through resource extraction or military bases, than on genuinely stabilizing the region. Saudi Arabia's approach through the IMCTC is fundamentally different. It is about empowering African nations like Burkina Faso to take control of their security while receiving the support and expertise they need to succeed. The focus here is on the strategic alignment between Burkina Faso and Saudi Arabia, two nations united in their desire to combat a shared enemy. For the Sahel, the arrival of Saudi troops through the IMCTC offers hope for a new kind of intervention, one that prioritizes local security over external agendas and recognizes the importance of African leadership in solving African problems. So, yes, Saudi Arabia stands to gain from a stronger foothold in the Sahel, but this is not a zero-sum game. Burkina Faso, under Traore's leadership, benefits from Saudi support in ways that directly contribute to its national security and regional leadership. The IMCTC's deployment is a win-win scenario, where both countries gain strength from the partnership. Burkina Faso gains military and intelligence support, while Saudi Arabia solidifies its role as a key player in global counterinsurgency efforts. With Saudi Arabia's involvement likely to reshape the fight against insurgency in the Sahel, the next question is, how will this partnership between Burkina Faso and Saudi Arabia impact the West's influence in the region? For decades, Western nations, particularly France, have maintained a strong military presence in West Africa, often justifying their involvement through counterinsurgency efforts. However, the results have been mixed, with many African nations growing increasingly frustrated by what they perceive as a continuation of neo-colonialism under the guise of security cooperation. Ibrahim Traoré's Burkina Faso has been at the forefront of rejecting this Western dominance, and, The arrival of Saudi troops through the IMCTC adds another layer to this defiance. Saudi Arabia's deployment to Burkina Faso represents a significant shift in the balance of power in the region. Unlike France and other Western nations, Saudi Arabia is not perceived as a neo-colonial power. Its involvement through the IMCTC is viewed as a partnership based on mutual respect and shared goals. For Traore, this is a crucial distinction. He has made it clear that Burkina Faso's future lies in forging alliances that respect its sovereignty, and Saudi Arabia's support fits neatly into this vision. The West, particularly France, has been watching with concern as Burkina Faso distances itself from its former colonial ruler. Traore's decision to sever ties with France and pivot toward new alliances with non-Western powers like Saudi Arabia and Russia is part of a broader rejection of the Western-dominated world order. By welcoming Saudi troops, Traore is sending a message that Burkina Faso no longer needs to rely on Western powers for its security. Instead, the nation is building partnerships that prioritize its interests. This shift is part of a broader trend across Africa, where nations are increasingly looking beyond the West for support. As Saudi Arabia deepens its involvement in the Sahel through the IMCTC, the region is likely to see more African nations seeking alternative security arrangements. The West's influence in the Sahel has been eroding for years, and the deployment of Saudi troops to Burkina Faso is yet another sign that a new era is dawning, one where African nations have more choices in determining their security partnerships. As Burkina Faso and Saudi Arabia strengthen their alliance, it becomes clear that the future of the Sahel's security is being reshaped. But what does this mean for the long-term fight against insurgency in the region? The future of Burkina Faso's fight against insurgency looks increasingly promising with Saudi Arabia's involvement through the IMCTC. While the region's challenges are immense, the strategic partnership between these two nations could provide a model for how African countries can secure their futures without relying on Western powers. The IMCTC's deployment to Burkina Faso is a significant step in the right direction. By leveraging Saudi Arabia's expertise in counterinsurgency and the coalition's resources, Burkina Faso is better equipped to tackle the jihadist threat that has destabilized the Sahel for years. The key to success will be maintaining a balance between military force and addressing the underlying socio-economic issues that fuel insurgency. Ibrahim Traoré's government has already made strides in this regard, with efforts to improve governance and promote economic development alongside its security initiatives. For Saudi Arabia, this partnership represents a broader commitment to global security and a demonstration of its leadership within the Muslim world. The kingdom's involvement in Burkina Faso is not just about military aid. It's about forging lasting relationships with nations that share its vision for stability and independence. As the alliance between Burkina Faso and Saudi Arabia strengthens, the future of the Sahel's fight against insurgency is becoming clearer. This partnership, grounded in mutual respect and shared goals, offers a path forward for African nations seeking to reclaim their sovereignty while securing their futures. For Burkina Faso, Saudi Arabia, and the broader region, the IMCTC's involvement represents the beginning of a new era, one where African nations can stand strong against insurgency without being beholden to Western powers. Do you think, with Saudi Arabia's help, Burkina Faso can fight insurgents? What to expect from West after this decision? Let us know in the comments section. Will they try to destroy the union between Saudi Arabia and Burkina Faso? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.